Hey guys, so it's time for a new episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I thought I'd do it on the latest addition to the collection, the 1992 GTR Skyline R32 by Nissan. So we'll start with some of the basic stats on the car. Car's all-wheel drive. The engine in it is an inline 6 twin turbo pumping out about 280 horsepower, and it'll scoot along to a top speed of 111 miles an hour. Which doesn't sound terribly fast to today's standards, but this car's not about top speed. It's about much more than that. And it would do a total of a 0 to 60 time in about 5.6 seconds. So again, not terribly fast to today's standards, but you gotta realize this car is 25 years old. This one is in immaculate condition. It's only got about 8,700 original miles. Still has all of the stickers on the car. Radiator cap, it's in perfect shape. Only thing that's technically wrong, but it was done by the by the dealer, these Nismo installed air vents in the front. The car is a clear design of the early 90s and clearly a Japanese car. Obviously, it's right-hand drive, so I don't know how many times I could tell you that I've walked in on this side and be like, oh, well, wrong side. What's funny is that this car is obviously from Japan. So these rear license plate frames and the front license plate frames for that matter are larger. Japanese plates are a little larger than American plates. So if you want to put an American plate on there, you can only screw it in with one bolt because it's not big enough. I find the exteriors of the R32s to be quite beautiful in my personal opinion. I would consider it a good feature of the car. Some people think that the styling is a little out of date in comparisons to the R33s and R34s. But me, I kind of like them a little more. Obviously, I think the R34 is king on the styling department because all three of those cars, I'll show you a photo right now, all three of these cars are very similar in exterior designs. Very much so of like a Mustang or a 911 where they were just upgraded looking designs along the way. But this is probably my second favorite. R34 is definitely king in that department. Now let me tell you a little bit of the backstory of the R32. This was the first car since I believe 1973 that Nissan came out with the GTR name. Now they had continually built the Skyline since 1973, but during the 70s gas crisis, they killed their entire performance line, and that included the GTR. And it was kind of cool because Nissan did what a lot of other companies didn't do. They didn't make a GTR and just badge it a GTR and didn't give it its performance. You know, other car companies have done that in the past where you take a car, you just slap a good badge on there and then you ruin the badge. Nissan didn't do that with the GTR. So this was the first car that they had made with the GTR name since 1973. And this is the one that actually got the name Godzilla. So all those R35 guys that have Godzillas in California, you can thank Godzilla to this guy. Originally, Nissan was only going to build about 5,000 R32s for homologation use, and that was the number that they had at reach, was 5,000. But after they started producing them, journalists, media, and the general public liked them so much that they decided not to make a limited number and just produce them. So in total, from 89 to 94, they built a little over 43,000 units, which is quite a bit, but that shows you how good of a car this was, that they could build 43,000 units and sell them and be what they are today. The interior on the car is pretty simplistic. The seats aren't anything special, the dash isn't anything special, but I kind of like that. It keeps the car not dated as badly as you see some of the other cars. A Ferrari of this era, a Viper of this era, the interiors are dated, not so much on this car. Now, like I said, this is an extremely low mileage car. This one's got only a little over 8,700 miles from new. The guy kept all of these original tags, which is quite amazing, to say the least. One owner car, freshly imported from Japan about a month ago now. So pretty cool. And originally a Tokyo car, which to me adds just that much more of a cool factor. So guys, let's take this one for a cruise, and I could tell you a little more of the driving experience about it and really get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of the car. Now that we're in the R32, I can tell you a little more about it. Like I had said, that twin-turbo inline-6 that's putting out 280 horsepower, it redlines at 7,300 RPM. It'll do this 0 to 60 in about 5.6 seconds and a top speed of 111. With this all-wheel drive system, though, it's pretty fast. It handles great. This car handles terrific, I must say, for a 25-plus-year-old car. You got to keep in mind that this car came out in '89. Even though this is a '92, it's the technology of an '89. So we'll start off with the bad. To me, there's only one real bad feature with this car, and that's the fact that it was only for Japan. A little bit, I believe, went to Australia, but these cars were never imported into America, and I don't like that. But that's really the only bad thing with this car. Luckily, now you're able to import it. America has a law that after 25 years, if a car hasn't been imported originally, you can't import it, but after the 25-year mark, you're legally allowed to import it. So this car, being that it is now 25 years old on this year, you're legally allowed to import it. Now, I did forget to mention one thing with this car as far as bad goes, and that's most of these cars that come over from Japan don't meet smog rules for most states. I'm sorry, not for most states, for some states, including California. So if you do get one in California, you either have to change it or run it on maybe an out-of-state plate or something like that. But that is one other bad thing that I forgot to mention. So now we'll go with the ugly. Really, it depends on who you're talking to. The right-hand drive, that could be ugly or it could be good. To me, I personally like it. It gives a different driving experience. I wouldn't want this on every car. I wouldn't want it on a new car that I'm picking up from a Porsche dealership or a Ford dealership. But for something like this, especially from Japan, I do like it. It gives a different driving experience. So take it as you will. But it is a little funky to drive, I must say. I'm still not 100% used to shifting with my left hand. Not used to where my front left tire is, or my right tire, just because I'm completely on the opposite side of the car. And I can't tell you how many times I've done this, look to my right for my rear view mirror when it's to my left. Really ugly. The more I think about it, that's the only thing. And granted, the car is not the most beautiful, but I personally like the car. And that's about it. Now for the good. There's lots of good on this car. Driving experience. Like I said, I personally like the right-hand drive. It adds to the driving experience. You get plenty of windows, so you're able to see out really well. The brakes in this car are terrific. It's easy to drive. And you have plenty of headspace. I'm 6'1" and I'm fine in here. I will admit that inline-6 doesn't make a ton of noise, but that's what a lot of people put in those crazy exhaust pipes and turn them into ricers for. Another good thing, and I personally really like this is a true car guy's car. Even a lot of car guys, I should say, won't know what this is. So when you get somebody to come up to you and say, wow, you have an R32, you know they know what's up, which is pretty cool to me. You can really distinguish who's the real, maybe not car guy, but real Japanese car guy. And even though this car only has a cassette tape, I really wish it had a CD player. I don't care much for the radio in this. You don't need it. It's so old and out of date anyway. I don't want to listen to FM and AM radio. But I do wish there was a CD player or an aux cord, because every time I get in this car, I want to play some sort of 90s music and feel like I'm in the Fast and the Furious. I mean, who doesn't, right? Then for my final point on the good, these are an up-and-coming car. I've seen 3 of them sell at auction. This one, which I will admit I spent quite a bit of money for, but it was the best one I've ever seen. There was another one, I believe in '89, that sold at RM Scottsdale a few years ago, and it brought good money as well. I believe it brought around the $85,000 range. And then LMB Classic, LMB Limited has one right now. I think they've got like 17,000 kilometers on their car, so substantially more, but they want 75 for their car. So these are an up-and-coming car, and I believe that they're in a good investment car, even with the amount of production that they built them for. And a major reason for that is these cars were tuned. This is like a 32 Ford or a Ford Pantera. They've all been hot rodded. And to find one like this that's been untouched, unmolested, is a special thing. And that's where the money is. Now, the guys that have these cars that have 150,000, 200,000 miles on them, not kilometers, that have been tuned and adjusted and have on a different air intake and different exhaust and blah, 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 those cars aren't going to be collectible, and they're not going to be worth what these are. It just doesn't happen that way, because you can find those. You want to look them up, they're on Craigslist all day long. So if you want something to go bang around with and have fun, that's the one. But for a collector and for an investment purpose, find something like this. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the good, the bad, and the ugly on the 92 R32 GTR from Nissan. Like I said, I'll be doing more of these on the 90s cars coming up, and till then, see ya.